Welcome to Dynamo's Dozen, the podcast that I bring you each and every single week, where I talk about whatever may be on my mind, from pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, music, movies, muesli, fresh socks and jocks, and everything in between, never forgetting the talc. And you're very welcome to a YouTube special of Dynamo's Dozen here today, where I am, of course, joined by my right-hand man of the Dynamo Podcast Network, the shopkeeper, Mr. Niall Hogan. And today, we're bringing all you YouTube folk something a little bit different and something quite special, actually. And it's going to be a two-parter. What we're doing today is that we have decided, because we've been talking so much about movies with the whole release of Retrotainment as well, which we both appeared on with the host Ted Irving, exclusively part of the Dynamo Podcast Network, we've decided that we would go through our personal favorite and most iconic on-screen, I suppose, characters, from the world of TV, movies. It can be from whatever, but mainly in movies and TV, of glories gone by. So if you're picking someone from like Twilight or something, you can go fuck yourself. But look, but it's also your choice too. If you disagree with any of our picks, you're more than welcome to comment in the comment section. We can actually tell you to go fuck yourself directly if that's what you're into, because surely that's what you're looking for. If you're going to pick, I don't know, your one that can't smile from Twilight, or your man that sparkles in the waterfalls, or your man that turns into like a really knockoff Teen Wolf or something like that. Yeah, I've seen them all, people. I've seen all the movies.
You're giving away the concept there.
Giving away the concept. So today, Niall being the guest, we decided to go with his pick. So I actually have no clue what he's picked. I'll probably have a good idea of what he's picked in some way, shape, or form. If you're wondering what that background is, well, the Dynamo's Dozen cave is going under some construction. We will have a much better backgrounds coming in the next few weeks, but we actually still have our Christmas tree up at the moment still, because a lot of people have decided, being the month of January and everyone in lockdown, I think a lot of people are depressed, so they wanted to keep their tree up. That's what's happening here, and unfortunately it's not giving me a lot of opportunity to get things the way I want to. But I have some nice little gimmicks here in the background. You can see some little Back to the Future going on here. We've got Mr. Miyagi here as well. Just
the
chill
man,
out.
the man.
So yeah, of course, Niall, you are the guest of honor today, once again, and as Dynamo's Dozen. Well, with Dynamo's Dozen itself, it's Dynamo's Dozen's second show. Obviously, later in the week we'll be dropping a huge episode with AEW talent and former NWA champion Thunder Rosa. But today, we're all about on-screen icons, I suppose would be the best way to describe it. So it's all yours today.
Yeah, great to be back on the show again. It's great being back on the Dozen as well, because it kind of feels like, when you moved out and then you go back to your ma's for Sunday dinner. Yeah. The Dozen is kind of the matriarch of the network, really. There'd be none of this would be going on if it wasn't for the Dozen, really.
You feel like you're back at home. Well, I'll put on a spread today for you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely. We put on a spread. Yeah,
virtual spread.
I kind of looked at this, and it's like, I suppose I've been watching movies maybe a little bit longer than the rest of the people on the network, but I tell you, it's a tough one to pull together, and it's hard to leave certain people out, that kind of way. It's a tough one. So what I did was I looked at movies in terms of characters that had kind of multiple appearances in different movies.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of longevity there as well. Like, everyone kind of knows I'm a huge Predator fan, so like it'd be very easy to pick sort of, Arnie Dutch in Predator, but I thought he was only in that Predator movie, so probably not. And everyone knows in the Predator movie, so the icon is the Predator, really, as opposed to Arnie has the great one-liners and all. So I came at it from that point of view as well. Now I've quite a varied list here, and quite a varied genre as well, because I kind of didn't want to, I like horror, I like action, I like sports, I like thrillers. I'm fond of a lot of genres. So I tried to squeeze a little bit in there while leaving a little bit out, if you like. So I'll probably kick it off, and like, you can't kick it off really anywhere else than really the Rocky movies and Rocky Balboa, really, can you?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, they're probably going to make an appearance on both of our lists, to be fair.
I would have thought there'll be a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
But I put him in there because there's such a collection of movies. He's so iconic in all of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know anyone living on this planet that doesn't know who Rocky Balboa is. And then moving on from that, I moved on to my second one, which again is it's Stallone again. So I put in the Rambo series of movies with John Rambo.
Again.
and again, it's like, you could do a top 10 really of just Stallone and Arnie really if you wanted.
Well, Arnie's a bit of a phony, but Stallone now is I mean, they're documentaries. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't see Stallone coming out in public getting involved in politics, especially as a failed politician coming out and kind of telling the American people what they should think. And then, he puts his hand out to be slapped sometimes, Arnie, whereas Stallone, he's such a smart man business-wise, isn't he, that he's got everything kind of set up, I think. And those two line of films, I mean, good Lord. Like, I always joke with you and people that say, they're not movies, they're documentaries. That's real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're kind of iconic insofar as you can go back and watch them again and again and again, and they age really, really well. Yeah. The third one I put in there, obviously, I mean, you have to include Harrison Ford, and it can only be Indiana Jones.
Okay.
And I had to put him in there because I think it's so iconic. And again, when you look at Harrison Ford as an actor, there's so many movies out there that are iconic. Yeah. I mean, he was the great Han Solo in the Star Wars movies as well. You know what I mean? So you could have picked between that, but later on in the list, a little bit of a spoiler, I do have a Star Wars in there, so I didn't include Han Solo. I put him in there as Indiana Jones.
But that's one to talk about, actually, yeah, because I only said this a couple of weeks ago, I think, it was to somebody anyway. I was like, when you think about Harrison Ford, like two of the most iconic roles ever, Indiana Jones and Han Solo. Like, it's not, because with Stallone, you think of Rocky and you think of Rambo. It's only when Harrison Ford's name pops up. I think we were watching, what was it? What Lies Beneath or something, and we were going, Jesus, it's such a different role for, such a guy who's the white meat baby face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he turns into this bastard heel who just, playing possum all the way through the movie, and then so it's crazy when you go back and look at that, like, and two really iconic roles with a lot of movies in the series as well.
Yeah, and again progressed and aged well. Again, they're the typical movies. Like, if you look at Indiana Jones or Star Wars, they typically tend to be the box that you break out at Christmas during your time, or you watch them over a period of time. But they're fantastic, and they're still riveting. And the feeling with those two sets of movies is I kind of watch them over and over again, but I still get the same good feeling watching them over and over again. Also, it never feels like a chore.
Yeah, exactly. And also, something to point out, I don't know whether anyone's ever noticed this, because they just tend to think of the character and, the head of him. Like, one of the coolest voices ever. I mean, if Harrison Ford done like an audio book or a radio show, I'd listen to it no matter what he was talking about. He's got that real deep voice. So, he's just such a cool voice as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So after that, then, of course, I'd have to get Arnie in there somewhere. So I put him in as the Terminator, the T Terminator, and I put him in there because I think they're such iconic movies as well.
Yeah.
And I just thought he was fantastic in the Terminator series, especially I think 1 and 2 anyway. And then I think it gets a little bit skewed after that, and a little bit sort of out of kilter. But certainly he makes my list essentially for the first two movies. I mean, the first one is absolutely iconic, and the second one was just, it was just amazing. Like, the soundtrack was amazing, the effects were amazing, it broke ground for its time and stuff like that, and it just on screen it just looked awesome.
That's one of my favorite movies as well, and it lended itself to his like acting ability or lack thereof. Do you know what I mean? It was the perfect role for him, that he could just kind of flex the muscles, I suppose, and just walk around like a badass. So it was a very iconic character.
Yeah, I also loved it the way like he was like the bad guy in the first one and the good guy in the second one.
Yeah.
So it was really cool the way they flipped it, you know, because no one really was expecting that at the time. I remember going, when you see that scene when he's walking down the corridor cocking the shotgun out of the box of roses, and you think he's just going to blow John Connors away, and the next thing he blows the other Terminator through the wall or something. Fantastic movie scene, you know. Really,
and even
really
when she's in the hospital as well, and she's running down, and he comes out of the elevator, and she slides, and they have that slow motion kind of scene. You can see the genuine fear in her eyes, like it's.
And you can see her; she's sliding along the floor still, like towards him, like, you know what I mean. And you just think he's gonna just blow her away,
like
you know, man, really, really cool.
Yeah, great movie.
Next on the list, I put in Mr. Action Movie himself, John McClane from the Die Hard series, Bruce Willis. I kind of felt like I had to put him in. Now, we'll move off from this genre, don't worry. But I felt I had to put him in because the one-liners are outstanding.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, yeah.
Yeah, and just all those kind of things, you know, and I just thought it's action from start to finish. And I think he really embraced the role because at the time, if you remember when he moved into the Die Hard series, he was doing that moonlighting series on TV where he was he a private investigator with a girl in it and stuff like that, but it was a real softer, much softer sort of, it was nearly like a rom-com really. It was more about his relationship with her than the actual context. And then he moved into this badass Die Hard movie, which people to this day still tell us it's not a Christmas movie, but
it is.
It depends which way you fall on it.
And you ever take a step back and you look at it, think about this, right? He's such a badass in the movie, but when you take a step back and look at it logically, it kind of, you know, a lad with a dad bod, kind of really, really bad hairline and really thin in head, no shoes or socks on him either. He's walking around barefoot in a pair of like brown granddad slacks and a handgun. Smoking, like it's just it shouldn't be as iconic as it is, but it is.
It is. Like it's just crazy. And I think a while ago there as well, didn't he do an interview himself a while ago, and he said that it actually wasn't a Christmas movie. and I was sort of thinking, you're fooling nobody here, mate. Come on, cop on.
I think he was trying to kayfabe people, trying to wind people up a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next one I put in, which is kind of. I sort of come from a different horror base maybe to some years because I grew up with some of the older horrors, which kind of, some respects don't really age well now, but are still iconic characters. So I went with Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
I'll fight anybody that says they didn't age well. They're still better than everything.
Sometimes I look at them now and they're still a bit pokey, but I still go back and watch them. And I still think the concept was cool. The character is unbelievable. And it's like you look at Robert Englund now and you think like, did he ever get over that character really, or did he need to start living it himself?
He is, that's it. I'm pretty sure.
He's very quirky himself.
I check his basement, and he's also coming back as Freddy Krueger. That character is going to be they're doing another film with him as Freddy, which is perfect because I mean he's aged pretty well, to be fair, and he's he's wearing that much makeup anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I'd agree, and such a dark character, like, do you know what I mean? The story is very, very dark, like.
Yeah, well, you're talking about a guy who invades young people's dreams, you know what I mean?
And was a paedophile, essentially. He was burned for being a pedo, you know what I mean?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
you know,
so
certainly gets on there.
Yeah, I love it.
I digressed a little bit here, and I went for Clint Eastwood, but where you'd expect me to go Dirty Harry and the Dirty Harry series, I didn't.
Okay.
I went for Blondie in the westerns.
Okay.
And I went for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, A Fistful of Dollars, and For a Few Dollars More.
Beautiful.
And I just thought, like, this is a guy, they actually gave him no name in the movies.
Yeah.
It's the guys who called him Blondie.
Yeah.
You know? And I just thought he was an absolute iconic badass in those Western movies. I remember the scene where your man has the shield off with him in the middle of the town and he's wearing the metal plate.
Yeah.
Man keeps on shooting him and he won't die or fall down. And the next thing he clips off something underneath that long shawl that he has. And the metal plate falls down with the bullet holes in it and he blows your man away. And he's such an iconic guy, you know, in terms of Westerns. And I know he's gone on to do a lot of other stuff. I mean, he was brilliant in what's it called, the prison one.
The Escape from Alcatraz.
Alcatraz. He was in Alcatraz, which was fantastic. The scene where he put your man's fingers in the foil. Maybe a man chopped his fingers off.
He's done so many amazing movies. Like he's definitely one of my favorite actors and favorite directors. You know, he's a star in the directing world then as well. But one of my favorite Clint Eastwood movies is one that people always get a little bit surprised by. It's a different character. It's actually Play Misty for me. A lot of people actually haven't seen that movie. It's a completely different character and a very thriller-based movie. But good Lord, that is a fantastic movie for anyone that hasn't seen it. Go and check it out. One of my favorite, but yeah, great show. The Good, Bad, and the Ugly has the best soundtrack ever. I mean, that opening that theme tune, Metallica still play that before they come out on stage to this day, and it's just the best feeling ever. Like, because you know what's coming. Like, you know.
The next guy I put in, and I kind of didn't nail him to a character because they're all kind of iconic, was Bruce Lee.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you'd have to have Bruce Lee in there. He's been iconic in so many of those martial arts movies that are kind of strange to watch today in terms of the dubbing and in terms of the way they're put together. But still, the actual premise of the movie and his character, I was toying sort of between him and Van Damme, and I had to put Bruce Lee in.
Ah, well, yeah, because you know he'd legitimately fuck you up as well. Like, you know. I mean, Enter the Dragon, it was pretty much one of the first and only movies where he actually used his own voice, you know, where he's like, "Bods, don't hit back." You know, and it was like, why didn't they do this all the time? Like, you didn't need that stupid dubbing voice. But I mean, that iconic scene, which I'm sure for any martial arts fan, between him and Chuck Norris is just, that whole fight scene is just incredible. You see how Bruce Lee is mimicking the cat, which shows exactly what he was into as a martial artist. He liked to mimic how animals moved and stuff like that. And that's a great show. That's a really great show for Bruce Lee.
The fight scene with Bolo. Remember the fight scene with Bolo in the temple on the island, and he ends up jumping up. And remember, Bolo goes to do him with the bottles.
Yeah,
he disrespects the martial arts, and that scene where he jumps up in the air to break his neck.
Yeah,
and like he's about like less than 0% body fat.
Oh,
and facial emotions, and just
what did he used to say when he tensed his back up? He just said he was spreading his wings, and that's exactly what it was like. Yeah,
that's how it looked. Yeah, but I think most lads growing up tended to have a Bruce Lee poster in their house somewhere. In their room.
I had several magazines, anything I'd find of Bruce Lee. I had the worst Bruce Lee poster ever that my uncle handed me down because he didn't want to give me his good shit. It was like a picture of him. It was like a picture of him sitting, you know, he was just chilling by a car, and he had the worst brown suit you've ever seen on him. He's just
is that the one with the Hawaiian shirt with the big collar and he's wearing the shades?
And yeah, that's the one. Yeah. I thought it was the best thing ever, and then I got older. I was like, "What the fuck have I got this one for? I need to Enter the Dragon here." Like,
he looks like he's going to a Bee Gees concert.
Or that was it, front row, man.
Quality, yeah. The next one I put in was obviously Ripley out of Aliens.
Great show.
I thought with Sigourney Weaver, who I thought was iconic in the movies.
Definitely.
A proper badass. And even in I think the follow-up one was Aliens Insurrection or something like that, where she's in there with the shaved head and the whole lot really gets into the character. I thought was outstanding and still iconic to this day. I remember when that first Aliens movie came out, and to see that alien exploding out of your man's stomach was just unbelievable. Like it was unheard of. Like just people couldn't believe it at the time when it came out, you know.
Yeah.
Next one I put in there is kind of a favorite for me, but might not necessarily be a favorite for most people. It's quite political. It's an Oliver Stone movie, and it's JFK and Kevin Costner playing Jim Garrison, which I thought was an outstanding role that he played at the time. And it was quite political at the time, because as you know, with Oliver Stone, a lot of his stuff he produces can be quite political.
Very much so.
And often his best work gets overlooked by the Academy and stuff like that because of these things. But I thought for Kevin Costner at the time, who was doing really, really well at the time, he'd done a lot of really good movies. He'd done Robin Hood, I think. He had done The Bodyguard.
Yeah.
He'd done a lot of really good stuff, you know. For him to jump into this role, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant in it. and played Jim Garrison really, really well. I'd say to people, go and watch it and check out his acting in it. But to me, it was iconic. It's a movie that I always really liked. Him.
It's one of the JFK one, yeah. It's one of my favorites.
Of
my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's a long one as well. It's a 3-hour, I think, or something like that. It's a real, for its time, it was a real long movie as well. But definitely worth a watch. And because I was a big JFK fan as well, and was always very interested, even as a kid, history-wise, by the assassination and Bay of Pigs and all this kind of stuff. So for me, when they made the movie, it was kind of cool. And
you and me both.
And the controversial thing was obviously him using the Zapruder footage.
Yes.
And he was using the real footage at the time, which was unheard of in movies and stuff like that, you know.
He was very underrated, actually. I know Kevin Costner is a big name, but he's actually quite a very underrated actor. A lot of people think he's just one of those actors that does the same kind of shit, but he's really, he's actually a very good actor in action movies. Even some of his latest movies, he's fantastic in, you know. He is... He has got that look, you know. When he wants to be badass, he can be badass. When he wants to be a serious actor, he can be. He's in some fantastic movies, Kevin Costner. I mean, what was the one? Oh my God, what was the other one as well? Where the gangster movie? Won't come to me now. You know the one I'm talking about? It was early 90s.
Yeah, he did the other one as well, didn't he? Do the water one as well. The
Waterworld.
Waterworld, which was pretty cool at the time as well. Yeah, it was like
I'll get that movie so we don't get crucified.
It was like sort of Mad Max on water, wasn't it? Really?
Oh, it was great. It was. It didn't do well in the box office, but it had a had a huge, a huge budget. It was a massive budget, But no, Kevin Costner. I'm gonna find that movie there now because people will, as I said, people will crucify us. It was in the 80s. Let me see. And obviously Dances with Wolves was huge. I mean, that was the first 4-hour movie. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, JFD, Oliver Stone Inside Out. Where is it? Was it called? Oh my God. Movie. The Untouchables. There we go. 80s movie. Elliot Ness. Yeah. That's the one. Brilliant movie. Brilliant movie, yeah. Brilliant movie. Yeah. So Kevin Costner, shout out to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So then my next one, without a shadow of a doubt, has to go on the list, is James Bond, Sean Connery.
Oh, nice.
Which is for me is so iconic. When I think of James Bond, I was a fan as well of Roger Moore. But when I think of James Bond, I think of Sean Connery. And again, you got those action sequences, you got those one-liners, you know, the man looks like everything you'd expect in a Secret Service agent of that time. You know what I mean? He was just cool. He was dapper. You know, there was a like a sexual presence about him and everything and all, wasn't there? Like he was just, you know, everyone wanted to be around him. Everyone wanted to be with him. Everyone wanted everything with him. And he'd all the kind of cool gadgets for the time and all, you know, the cars are cool. And, you know, and the thing about Sean Connery as well, in my view, in the Bond series, I think he had the best bad guys to go up against, really.
Oh, definitely.
The most iconic bad guys to go up against. So for him, he's obviously iconic for me, you know.
Yeah.
I've 3 more that I put in there that I kind of just couldn't take out, you know. One we've just lost recently, David Prowse, obviously Darth Vader in the Star Wars series, who to me is the ultimate bad guy who turns babyface, if you like, at the end of the series and makes things. But he was so iconic, and it was just, you know, the use of the Force and the breathing through the mask and that iconic mask and iconic dress that he, you know, dress sense that he wore and all. And like, he put the fear of God in you, you know. You see him right at the start where he comes in and he just, you know, he turns on his own people as much nearly as he turns on the people he's chasing down, you know. But Darth Vader for me would be an iconic character in there.
That's a fantastic character to have in, to be fair, without a doubt.
Then I couldn't leave out our very own Marty McFly from Back to the Future, standing there behind you. I think he has to be in there in terms of iconic characters. I mean, that whole series of movies is just fantastic. Stands up to this day. Watched continuously every Christmas and probably throughout the year. And was just kind of so quirky, kind of so comedic, kind of so serious. And, you know, the relationship between him and Doc Brown is kind of like, you know, you'd wonder why these two guys ever get together in terms of a similar interest. But as characters on the screen, they play off fantastic. So I put Marty Mcfly in there.
Oh, you'd have to. Like, that's one of the best movies of all time. And I suppose honorable mention from Michael J. Fox, like the Teen Wolves as well. Like, fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. And even back in Family Toys on TV and stuff like that. He was so good even in that, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
The last one I put in, and I couldn't leave out, even though I've gone a little bit higher on the list, was Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, yeah.
And although being honest, I thought Jodie Foster was brilliant in it, and I thought the chap who played Buffalo Bill was brilliant in it as well. You know what I mean? There's a lot of iconic characters in that movie, but I thought just his way of putting the character across, his slowness and then speeds up when needed, the way he just sold the character to us, that like, I mean, he kind of in the beginning came across as just a sort of broken down old man who you think you'd handle no problem. And then you see that scene in the cage when he's in the cage with the mask. I think they were shipping him out to visit the president to try and, or whoever it was, who had the daughter missing. And he guts your man and hangs him on the cage like bat wings. That moment, and you turn around and you go, yeah, we're really dealing with someone here really, really deep.
Yeah.
You know? And because you kind of don't see the build up. Like, you hear about all these people he killed and stuff like that, and the danger of them and stuff like that. But then you sort of are attracted to his softer side when he's dealing with Jodie Foster. He's sort of coming down to her level a little bit, kind of in a way to goad her in a little bit, you know what I mean? And lead her along. But he's just outstanding as a character in that movie. They're the kind of ones that I picked out as a list. There's obviously some ones in there, the likes of Jim Garrison, and they're kind of a lot more personal to me and stuff like that in terms of characters that stood out in movies that I watched over the years. I could have put in other actors or similar actors, the same actors, but in different movies, if you like, you know what I mean? But I thought I'd stick with kind of what I have, so I gave everyone kind of a fair shout, and I crossed a number of genres, and I didn't kind of go for some of the obvious stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense as well. Like, it's quite a varied list, like, and I suppose that includes a couple of honorable mentions. There was no formula as such as, you know, there's always got to be some in there that are personal to you as well, that like one or two people might relate to and go, oh yeah, shit, that's a great movie. Or someone listening to this show might pick up on a couple of the movies that were mentioned, like, you know, JFK and even the likes of the Untouchables or Play Misty for Me or something like that. You know what I mean? So these are all opportunities for people to go back and revisit movies that they probably seen when they were younger as well, which is that's more retrotainment's job to do. But for us, it was just more a case of talking about iconic actors and on-screen people. Like, as I mean, the world of TV as well. Like, a lot of people would say, oh, well, you know, there's iconic TV characters from shows and stuff, but you know, and there is, I mean, you can look at, you know, Ted Danson and Cheers and all that, like, and they're all iconic TV characters, but it's a different kettle of fish altogether, because it's only now in the last, say, 5-6 years that TV's almost become as big as movies. But back then it was always very, very separated. Even the camera work would look different. The movie was something special. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't touch on TV at all now, but I mean, that's another list I could do if you wanted to be.
We can go. I'm sure we can do that down the line for sure.
I stuck basically to movies because, to be honest with you, with the list, it was just, you know, what you do is you pop half of these guys off and pop in some TV guys, and like, you wouldn't feel bad in any way about it, but it's just, you know, trying to do a list like this of iconic characters. It was a tough one to do, you know.
No, I like that we kept it separate as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, look, that's what we're going to leave it there for this week. What we're going to do is we're going to continue this on next week with or we might even do it this week. Who knows? But we're going to. We will obviously record it, but it should be dropping to your screens at some point next week. The second part. This has been a pretty fun little thing to do. Nice little short podcast. Keep people entertained. Hopefully get people having that conversation with themselves and their friends or whatever, and thinking who's good. And look, guys, do be sure to interact with us, because we are very flexible and very active in terms of getting back to people as well. So if you agree or disagree with any of this, leave your comments in the section below, and give us the reasons why you don't like any of them. I can't see why you wouldn't, but if you do, why not get in touch with us? Be sure to follow all of our shows again on the Dynamo Podcast Network, which is what you're listening to. Hit the like and subscribe button, and hit the bell notification button as well for updates on upcoming content, which it's getting a lot more fast paced now, guys. Now we're in our groove. 2021 is going to be a big year for us, so we need all your support, and we appreciate the people supporting us so far. We've got
get them to send in their lists.
Exactly.
Be interesting to do comparisons.
Exactly. We're going to be doing that with some of our shows going forward as well. Patreon will be coming up. I am working on that at the moment, so don't think I've forgotten about that. And there'll be lots of really cool stuff, really cool stuff in that medium coming up very, very soon. But until next week, for myself, Dynamo, and for the shopkeeper, that is all we have time for, and we are over and out.